There's a line in a prayer I learned from some of my friends that says, relieve me of the bondage of self. Anybody ever heard that? Relieve me of the bondage of self. It's a beautiful prayer. It's done in a way that's not the type of prayer that we teach here, but it is asking that power greater than the personality self to please do that so that we can be more available. I love it. And the reason that comes to mind is because we're talking about freedom today. And we're talking about freedom in terms of this idea that bondage is simply a misuse of the law of freedom. It is simply utilizing the same principles that are involved in freedom. And yet, if we don't know that they are operating, if we don't know what they are, what we end up doing is unconsciously using the same principles, the same laws, the same aspects of nature which are constantly operating to bind us, rather than to experience the freedom that is our birthright. I must recommend anything and everything that Ernest Holmes, our founder, has written on freedom. And Rick shared some of it from the beginning of our 1938 textbook just now. Fabulous, amazing, amazing words. And what I wanted to talk about this morning has to do with our Science of Mind 101 class, which just began this past Tuesday. And some of you are in that class, and so you will have done your homework just by sitting here practically, because our assignment was to read that reading, and our assignment was to contemplate what I'm going to share this morning. And that has to do with meditation. I don't know if you've noticed, but we have a slogan in this teaching that says, change your thinking, change your life. I have a t-shirt that says that. I'm not wearing it right now. I wear it almost all the time during the week. I wear it proudly. It is a silent advertisement everywhere I go. I'm at the gym, and it says, change your thinking, change your life. And it tells people how to get in touch with us. Well, that's all very well and good, but how do we do that? You know how many times we've seen in a sitcom or some Hollywood script a person who says, okay, you want to be quiet? I can be quiet. And then they keep talking and talking and talking about how they're capable of being quiet. Well, for one thing, that's what I'm going to do right now, because we just did a meditation. And now we're here to share some ideas and get some things going that we haven't thought about in a while. Or maybe to think about them in a new way. So I am going to talk. The other thing is that that's what our brains do. That's what our minds do. There's a beautiful book called The Untethered Soul that, what is his name? Michael Singer. Michael Singer. Yeah. Oh. He talks about this voice in our head as if let's say you're at your home and you have your television on, and there's this person sitting next to you on the couch with the clicker who's changing channels constantly and talking all the while. It's been a while since I read it, so I might be really ad-libbing quite a bit here. But you wouldn't tell that person, damn you, get out. Well, maybe you would, but anyway, you would most likely be kinder to that person who's yammering on and just doesn't even realize it, right? You'd think, how can I politely interject that maybe this isn't working for me? So, of course, many of us, all of us, at this point have been to seminars to learn how to quiet our minds. And we recognize that one way or another, whatever the approach is, there is something that we can do to get to that place where the voice is still for a moment. Deepak Chopra calls it the gap. I was at a family party last night, and my nephew was wearing a t-shirt that said, "Mind the gap." And I'm not sure if he knows, well, maybe I don't know what he meant by wearing the shirt, but I knew what it meant for me. The gap is that place, of course, in between those thoughts, where we can access the infinite. And yet, if we can't get in between them, while they do exist, all that possibility, it remains essentially unavailable to us simply because our thinkingness is in the way. That's all. That's all. So whether if it's a purposeful act or something that happens in our experience and causes us to be still for a moment, sometimes we do it with illness or shock. When something causes us to be still for a moment, we're able to access the infinite. Now, in quantum physics, the infinite is also, it's called the quantum field. Basically, it is the wave state of possibility, of every possibility to which there is no end. And when we think about it in a particular way, it takes form in a particular way, according to that thought. That is the nature of what we teach and practice here. So there's a moment in every new thought person's life when they realize, oh my goodness, there's a connection between what's going on in my head and what's going on in my life. Ooh, where do I begin? And they're afraid to think at all, afraid to feel at all. Well, you know what? It's okay. I don't know about you, but I get caught up in this thing sometimes, and I did it this past week, where I habitually became so focused on who I am not yet and where I am not yet that it was, as it should be, rather painful. And then, what did I do? I read the material for our class on Tuesday and was reminded, you can think again. Now, nobody's saying that that's easy when you're in the middle of a crisis, when you're in the middle of a downward spiral, when you're in the middle of something that has become so big, it seems impossible to think of the mountaintop. In some of the other teachings that I'm familiar with, the encouragement is simply to reach for something that you can reach from where you are, that's just a touch above where you have been. Just a touch. And when you get there and you pause and you take a breath and you say, okay, that's a little better, you do it again until you get to that place where the vantage point shows them a different view, which brings a different set of thoughts and feelings, triggers another set of beliefs that are much more optimistic, which you may have forgotten you even possessed, and accesses a set of experiences corresponding to that. So this change your thinking, change your life thing, it's not the flip of a switch, because it requires our willingness to befriend that noisy mind self on the couch beside us. The one that's riding around in the back seat of the car, you know, the one that's looking over our shoulder when we're trying to get something done. It is an aspect of us that's simply calling for our attention. And there is perfection in that as well. I realized that even though I didn't like the voice that I was hearing this past week, it had something so important to tell me. And so we may have become accustomed to thinking that what we're supposed to do is kill our ego or fire it or issue some papers for it to be transferred, to another location or something, another office. That we're supposed to try not to think this and feel that. And it doesn't work. Remember, Star Wars was, George Lucas was inspired by the science of mind a great deal, among other things. He had a copy of that textbook on his shelf. And when we say, let this force be with you, and remember the whole scene with, oh goodness, now tell me his name, I have forgotten. Yeah, Luke Skywalker, may the force be with you. Yoda said, there is no try, there is only do. So we know that we can't try not to think. We know that we can't try to think what we should think. We really just have to ditch the whole trying thing. And stop and ask, where is this coming from? This past week, what I was doing is I was standing next to a yardstick that wasn't mine. And according to this yardstick, which didn't belong to me, I was to this and not enough of that and late and whatever, just not measuring up. And then I realized, oh my goodness, that's not my yardstick. Who you are and who I am and where we are and what we're up to right now is absolutely perfect. You are not late. You are more than enough. And any ideas to the contrary are simply ideas. We can see them coming. We can let them float on by. We don't try not to have them, right? We just let them float on by and say hi. And if they try to engage us, remember that there is no power in anyone or anything out there, but the power within it. The power is in here. So we can say, don't even have to dig your heels in and say, I'm not talking to you. Because you know what? When I do that, I'm talking, right? The Eastern philosophy says that, of course, that which we resist persists. So when I grab a hold of something to tell it, I'm not thinking about you, I'm thinking about it. It's really, we have to laugh. We have to laugh, because I don't know about you, but I make this so hard, and it doesn't have to be hard. What does it take to just get into that gap? To just let go and relieve yourself of that bondage. Because the thing is, I put in this thing in the newsletter, which I've written all over, you can't even see the words on the page anymore. But I asked if anybody else was having trouble quieting their mind. And I asked if you thought this infinite possibility stuff was a bunch of bunk. I didn't use that word either. And I asked if maybe we could come together and realize that there's nothing wrong and that you don't have to be a yogi to get to that place. You just don't have to. Is there something that you love to do that quiets your mind? I know Nishama shared with me last week the title of a book from Jack Kornfield. And it says, After the Ecstasy, Do the Laundry. You may find that in doing something as simply as the laundry, so familiar, so mechanical, so systematic, that you get to the gap. The Eastern philosophers knew about this, sweeping the path. The whole mindfulness practice is about this. Terry McBride, one of my favorite, groundbreaking, outside-the-box fans of this teaching, and he speaks in Unity churches as well. He said, you don't have to make sure that you breathe through one nostril, lift the other cheek, etc., etc., etc. You do not have to do that. You just have to trust that in that place, between all of those thoughts, is nirvana, is infinity, is possibility, is wholeness, is healing, is everything. And you may get there by sweeping the floor or doing the laundry, repairing something, straightening out the garage, tinkering with your car, painting, baking, riding your bike, that's mine, gardening. It doesn't matter how we get there. What matters is that the stilling of the mind allows us to control its direction. And we know now that doing that means that we get to control the creative power of our thought. there's a beautiful quote here from, it's in the, see, this is your homework. It's in the material for the class. And this is from Eknath Easwaran in his book Meditation. Excuse me. It says, meditation will do for you what it has done for all who practice it regularly. Enable you to steer your car, and in brackets, mind, expertly. If you want to stay in one lane and cruise, your mind will obey you. If you want to change lanes or turn right or left or even make a U-turn, your mind will respond. When your mind does that, at command, you have mastered the art of living. Mastered the art of living. This class that we're doing is open, by the way, so I invite you to come along. It's Tuesday morning at 10:30, right out there, if you want to check it out. Meditation is considered one of 3 tools that are vital to a spiritual practice that will produce the results that we're talking about. This freedom, this liberty, this recognition of our magnificence. It is something that we can then bring into any situation or scenario. It is something that we can learn to create the habit of tapping into. And then we can call upon it when we are, as they say, off the cushion, off the mat. In life, in the thick of it. Maybe you're on the turnpike and late, or on 95, or maybe you're just down in all of this, or maybe you're looking at something that's in front of you that seems so big. What if, right before we were talking before a celebration, we're talking about some of us who are waiting for results from having taken a test, and some getting ready to take a test, and some getting ready to make a big step, and some having heard something that's hard to grasp. Some of us adjusting to major changes in our life circumstances. Some of us wondering what's next and being fully aware that what they have been doing is complete, but they don't know what is next. We can call upon that infinite wisdom, that infinite love, that infinite substance, that infinite life. And we don't have to think. All we have to do is to achieve that stopping of thinking for a moment and get into that place. And then what do? We get up, we say, okay, I did it. I did my spiritual practice. Now let's look at what's in front of us. And we go about our day, right? And what happens? Invariably, things that we need to know just fall into our line of sight. A word, somebody calls, someone knocks at the door, an opportunity arises. Things fall into place as if by magic. Because what happened? We actually fell into place with that magic. We did. It's always been present. And it's always been available right here in the heart in each and every one of us. And yet, here is something about freedom that makes it impossible for it to be done for us. Now I get to find it. Okay. The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under the law. Thus, the inherent nature of man is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We shall do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams, and of a freedom the soul craves. I'm not going to do this way because you can see, I have like 10 pages of Ernest Holmes talking about freedom. But what I will say is this. Because we are free, and you've heard this said before because it's such a significant part of this teaching. Because we are free, what we need and what we desire in any moment cannot be simply handed to us. It has to be by our agreement, or we wouldn't be free. We would be like robots. Holmes calls it automatons. So what happens instead is that we have the freedom, true freedom, to use natural law to really muck things up or to make them wonderful. We have the freedom to use the principles in nature, the spiritual principles, the universal truths, in such a way that they create bondage, or we can use them for freedom. It's really what I said when we began, that we're working with one set of laws, and how we use them determines what our outcome is. So what I want to leave you with today is simply this. There is an opportunity right here. Well, let's just pretend that today is July 1st, okay? This is my thought. At the end of December, on the eve of a new year, we get all geared up, imagining what it is that we would like to experience that is greater than what we have been up to. And we do a lot of reflecting. We're willing to let some things go. We're willing to try some things and try them again. How interesting that this celebration of independence happens when the second semester, the third quarter, the second half of the year begins. So what if from now on you think of June 30th as the other one? An opportunity to revisit how you wanted to be free this year, what you wanted to declare and claim for yourself, what you wanted to experience and were willing to go out on a limb for. And rededicate yourself to that. Rededicate yourself to that. I'm just going to close us with a prayer, so I invite you to close your eyes for a moment, and we will just lock this in. I speak my word again in the spirit of freedom, recognizing that it is present right here and right now for each and every one of us. Because this is so, and because we are one with it, I recognize that our minds and hearts, our bodies, our affairs, our lives are absolutely infused and imbued with this freedom. We embody it, we emanate it, it is all that we encounter and experience. And so I know as we step into this second half of this amazing year, in the full realization of the truth of who we are, that we are guided and loved and supported and supplied and enlivened at every turn. And in gratitude for this, I simply release my word. I know it's already done. And so together as we open our eyes, we say, and so it is. Namaste.